I feel right now we're going for a very narrow win, a very narrow definition of what crypto was ever about. If we stop here, I think we've probably made the planet possibly even worse.
Welcome, Florian. Really happy to have you here on this segment of the wrap up. I know you, Florian, but for the general viewer, they might not know you. So hopefully you can give a little introduction as to who you are.
Well, thank you for having me on the show. I'm Florian. I'm mostly known for being a lawyer in the crypto space for quite a long time. A lot of people have seen or heard something about something that I've been doing, either in a capacity as an advocate for the crypto industry on the political stage. I've done that in Germany and in Brussels. I've given hundreds of public talks over the years about crypto. What is it? How does it fit into regulation? I've done that in universities, at lawyers' congresses, at crypto events, non-crypto events all over the world, on all continents, it feels. So that's how I've gotten a certain notoriety, if you say it like that, as sort of one of, I guess, many voices that define the crypto ecosystem. I'm also trying to build something, be recognized more as a builder, somebody who has entrepreneurial spirit, problem-solving spirit, execution capabilities, and sort of all these weird skills that you need as a founder nowadays in crypto in 2024. I think the most honest thing you can do in life is building a successful project that can be a company that uses methods of capitalism to survive. You need to summon some sort of spirit that then creates a self-maintaining system over long stretches of time. And that to me seems like a crazy form of art that brings together the biggest diversity of skills to pull it off somehow.
I'll add, you are a very interesting person to talk to. You're very unassuming, humble in your appearance, humble in your presence, but the depth of your knowledge is anything but. You are very well spoken. You're a very deep thinker. Dare I say, you're a opinion leader, whether or not you want to be one. Very recently, Florian, you took to Twitter with what you would call your Twitter rants, but it was like it was an opus in shit posting, but you had an actual message that you were trying to get across there. Maybe you could speak to that message a little bit here.
I'm happy to talk about that. It was such an interesting phase. I suddenly started shitposting under my very serious lawyer account on Twitter, eventually also changing my profile picture, my bio, totally leaning into, okay, this is one of these shitposting accounts on X as a sort of stage that I created for myself to just speak truth. It was really interesting and intense, and it felt like a mix of performance art, but also just a way of finding my own voice in the broader crypto space, which you can very much argue I had for a long time, but not really. I never really felt comfortable saying the things maybe I really think. And I feel as a lawyer, you're never trained to say what you really think. That's not part of your profession. So there is a deep incentive misalignment, you can say, in your own head, even, that goes deep.
Yeah.
For 10 years, I felt I had a lot of imposter syndrome, to the extent where I was like, I'm not Vitalik. I'm not this sort of math genius that is also a luminary thinker and philosopher and has read every fucking book on the planet and can calculate everything from first principles. I came into the space with Vitalik. Like, he's the reason I'm here. He was one of the first crypto people I ever met in the space. I was with the whole Ethereum team, Gavin and everybody else in the room trying to get the C++ client running in 2014. I had a ThinkPad with Linux on it, and I could run the stuff, but I didn't understand what I was running, and I was no valuable contributor to anything, if you want, back then. Anyways, like, starting to just shitpost my most maybe authentic takes I could give. I was subtweeting a certain meta right now in Ethereum, which is a search for meaning, a search for what are we even doing here? What were exactly the reasons why we started? Where have we landed 10 years later? Was it really just, to build these fintech rails? Was it to have Larry Fink now do the ETH ETF. What again was the reason for all of it, right? I just started to add my voice to that conversation. And when you say, you're in a sense a KOL, I would, it's funny because I'm not. I have few followers. I don't do any promotion of things. So I'm the anti KOL. But in a sense, yes, I would say it's actually true because, like, in the weeks after, I felt I read a lot of resonance of what I had given into this hive mind. I felt there was a lot of ripples, sort of how conversations shifted, others adding a voice, different perspectives, but I felt sort of some resonance from what I had said. So that was a really interesting experience that you might say you can have as a creator on X specifically. It's like a mimetic hive mind where you can actually shift conversations if you inject the right memes in the right way, and shitposting is the gateway. There's, I think, a whole deeper thing potentially going on around this mimetic hive mind that is currently X and about how you influence it. And in a broader extent, how the media has changed over the last, let's say, 10 years or so in a really dark way. I think we can all agree, whatever side of the aisle you're on, we can all agree somehow the media is like extremely deeply fucked at the moment. And I think to a
No,
bigger extent, there is something going on. And I felt like my engagement on X was part of me sort of testing maybe even some theories I might have that I haven't even said publicly, or I might have talked about, but not very much explained what I mean. But anyways, this was almost like also research.
it's interesting to me because as an outsider who's just reading your Twitter post, while at the same time experiencing the same things that you're talking about, right? Like I was actually this morning, my wife and I were in bed, we woke up, we talked, and then I'm kind of just, lazily looking through the X feed in the morning. And I made a comment to her about something, and she basically looked at me and said, "Man, your thoughts have been so radicalized recently." And that took me aback. I had to like think about what I had just said to her because the comment I made was absolutely a very polarized comment, and I'm not a very, I don't know, my opinions I'm an air sign, right? And I go, your ETH Berlin talk, you said you're an Aquarius, I'm a Gemini, right? Like I'm blowing around all the time. That's just how I am. Like I'll change my opinion quickly, but the opinion I gave her, she didn't recognize.
Mm.
And I think I resonate with what you're talking about in the media. And then also your Twitter, your shit posting, which I liked. I sent you a message. I said, please keep doing it. It wasn't even necessarily what you were telling me. It was the way you were telling me that resonated. That was true. Whatever you were saying, whatever the message was, I said, that is coming directly from Florian.
That's so interesting. And I have some friends who are, you would say they're among the elites in Germany. They know what's happening in the government, in big corporations. There's just a network of knowledge. I have no access to it, but I'm friends with a few people from that because of, how crypto works and everything. With him, I sometimes talk about how the established political parties in Germany approach social media advertising and in what kind of bad state it is. And
Mm.
we just had elections in Germany, and the Nazis are basically taking over the country, and they have a multiple, like a two-digit multiple of employees just running social media accounts for them. So the right-wing party, I'm just calling them the Nazis. It's just a right-wing populist, huge, insanely huge results. Very worrying for a democracy with Germany
Mm.
and its very specific history. And they are just winning through social media alone. They've won the most voters in the young people, not in old people. Typically, old people vote for Nazis, especially that was in the old times. The old Nazi generation was voted for by old people. Now, the biggest voters are young people and they consume TikTok. It all sort of comes together because obviously with Common Ground, the project I'm trying to build, it's a social app. And we've very roughly identified like this might be the most existential issue to humankind at the moment that needs solving, like building a better facts to fictions pipeline to not run civilization into the ground. Like we could literally just take a wrong turn, like follow a collective delusion as society that literally ends in concentration camps or nuclear war or bioweapons, or there's so much insane shit we could be doing wrong right now. And it,
Yeah.
Robin Hanson, one of these, great luminaries, he's been writing in 2009 already that we're living in the most delusion dominated part of human evolution that has ever existed. We're very delusion driven, and we are attackable on a mimetic level as a society that we have not at all grasped. Like, we have not grasped how much we are attackable. This Cambridge Analytica stuff was sort of a premonition, but it was maybe the last case where we even knew about it. It might have been the first and last case we even knew that this shit is happening. So I don't want to sound so conspiratorial. This is very real. I mean, the EU wants to
Yeah.
ban Twitter in the entire of EU. It was banned in Brazil. Pavel Durov was just recently. So it's not conspiratorial. This shit is like real. And you might think it's illegitimate actions of governments being desperate and whatever, like all the Twitter talk. It doesn't really matter. It's like the fact that there is now a big fight around the media and who has which reach with what kind of speech and who are the arbiters. It might be the most important discussion to have right now, because it's so broken right now. Before we don't fix it, we can't even fix the real problems like a climate change or mass migration or whatever your problem of choice is of global scale. We can't solve it if we don't have an facts to fiction pipeline, a information machine that like creates consensus in people's brains about what to do next.
It's interesting you bring that up as a part of ETH Berlin. You gave a small talk after you went on this Twitter rant, but one slide I really had to think about. You said, "What are we even doing here?"
Mm.
And I had to guess at what you were implying, but I'm thinking web of
Yes.
trust, thinking about the greater world. There's no bigger problem that I interact with, I deal with on a daily basis than, can I trust the information that is being fed to me right
Mm-hmm.
now? And it doesn't matter whether it's my local government, city government, or my friend telling me a story. It's just like, these are all just words that are being impressed upon me. Some of these words are meant to elicit a reaction, are meant to try to get me to be complicit in something or to go against something. I have no ability to filter that in an effective way because there's such a varying and wide range of opinions that are coming at me all the time. Now, hopefully, I have my friend, I trust my friend, I trust my wife, I trust my brother, my dad. To your point, X comes up and I start scrolling my algorithm. I don't know what's true and what's not true. What is that fact to fiction pipeline? I just have every range of possibilities being thrown at me, and what's determining the algorithm for what I'm seeing? There's no bigger problem. And technology, blockchain, I mean, because this we talk crypto. We're both in blockchain. I see that as a solution to the problem. However, I don't know how to get to the end, right? I just know that I can apply the solution somehow. And I'm
Yeah.
hoping really smart people can figure this out and I can benefit from it. But right now, I think what I resonated with, Florian, when you were talking is it was it was the experienced participant in the space that was speaking, but who's also a founder trying to solve the problems, feeling like you're running up against the
Yeah.
wall.
I'm more and more thinking about it as a coordination game that we have to solve. For example, Vitalik, we agree he's the greatest genius of our generation. He's also maybe the greatest he should get all the Nobel Prizes in every category. Whatever, he's great. But let's say his
Yeah.
favorite identity project is ZooPass. I think it's a sort of open source. You can plug any kind of identity model in. It uses zero knowledge where it can, and it's just there, and people voluntarily use it without any incentives whatsoever, except interoperability with others. I love it, but it feels very niche for a very niche community, and I think that's also there was never a greater ambition for it. The reality is, even if Vitalik had a greater ambition for it, I don't think he would achieve much, because building a successful social app is just as hard as building Ethereum itself. And it doesn't even matter if this social app uses anything with blockchain. It's just building a successful consumer social app that has distribution across billions of end users on their phones. That's like black magic. I mean, that has, you know, when TikTok achieved it with an actual innovation, which was your followers don't count. It's only the algorithm that is so smart that it knows after a few seconds of you using the app what it should suggest you. That's an innovation, great. But the other
Yep.
way, the way they got the users is we don't know, but that's a theory. Chinese government through whatever arms giving the company behind it the the money to buy advertisement on Facebook, Instagram, Snapchat, and everywhere else that's ad financed to send users to the TikTok app. So a very anorganic way of growing to a large user base. And that is a state attack, right? That is state attack level
Yeah.
shit. Which is why we had
Yeah.
this whole should we ban this TikTok discussion, which I don't know where it went, but
Sure.
I think that was part of the reason why this was also, I guess, justified. With like, is this an attack? I mean, Vitalik is amazing and he's built Ethereum, but he had never had to convince all these Gen Alpha and millennial people to install now this fancy app. Brainy people like us who are into theoretical ideas, which is a small community but a very sophisticated community. He put all us together and we co-opted Wall Street. You know, okay, great, but that is not a consumer adoption success. That is just like you've updated the rails of banking and finance and you've let it be co-opted by the people who own the old stuff. Plus, you've kept your own billions along the way. Great. So now you've joined them. And this is also a broader discussion that I also was, I guess, involved in a bit on Twitter. This whole question of the app layer of crypto, which has been neglected, the end mile to the heart and soul of people, the app, the front end, you know, the thing that smart contract developers look down upon because, hey, that's just fucking React, whatever, an AI does it for me in 5 minutes, you loser, like that type of thinking. That worked in crypto because you never needed an interface to get other nerds who have millions in crypto to send you some for you to do another coin that does whatever, even if it does nothing, everybody who's in early makes bank. Like
Right.
this mechanic never required anyone to build a good front end. And now we sort of, hey, we've built the rails. Where is everybody? Well, nobody's here because we haven't yet convinced a single normal person to be interested in our stuff because we haven't built any experiences.
Obviously, highly resonate with the idea that the application layer is completely lacking at this moment. I love the fact that there are these decentralized financial rails. It found product market fit. What's interesting, you brought up before, hey, we did a great job of building a parallel financial system, and then we all waited. The narrative was we can't wait until the big institutional players get here. Like, hey, well, why did we is that really what we wanted? We wanted to build a completely alternate financial universe just so it can be
Yeah,
co-opted and taken over by the people that we tried to get
yeah,
away from.
it's
Insane.
insane.
And in the meantime, so much investment capital is being sprayed at infrastructure, more block space, more ways for people to just turn around a quick investment, make a buck, right? Because you're close to the token release.
Yeah,
While in theory, for the average person, there's literally nothing to do. You can invest and you can hold a product and you can wait and hope it'll go to mainnet, but there's very few applications that you're going to show up every day and use. And you have one in common ground. And you said it's like black magic to get users to come in, adopt it, use it. And that is a very difficult problem to solve. Honestly, Florian, I don't know how to solve it at this point, and I think you don't either. And that's the whole point of these messages that you were getting out there.
exactly. I
Um,
was like, I have to play a coordination game and actually start just where I have the most distribution and the best audience, which has always been my Twitter. I have a lot of great followers, starting with Nick Szabo, who might be Satoshi for all we know. He's a very OG person, and another a lot of people throughout the years that I've had interactions with in this industry. So I know that my stuff can be seen, and I didn't expect that one of my maybe most I wouldn't say toxic, but dark. Somebody called it a dark tweet. One of my darkest tweet went like viral to like 300,000 views or something like this, where I said it's crypto is not at all egalitarian. How it's just all about how are these invisible, these glass ceilings where you know you're running against if you don't know the right people and so on. One thing I realized to play a coordination game, I would have to start on Twitter and I would have to be the most authentic in the sense I can be, because if everything is being drowned by sameness, by effectively LLM bots, you don't, I mean, you don't know how many LLM bots you see while you scroll, but we know the number is non-zero. So, and even if it's not LLM, it's like NPC type tweets. So it's just like sameness. So the only way to break through people's apathy when doom scrolling is to hit them in the face with the most authentic slap of truth that you can produce. And what was really interesting for me is that I was in a physical state where I was able to do that. It's something I think I would even have to almost like try to meditate right now to get even into that state again. So that's why it felt a bit like art and like real time art almost, because at some point my head was only shit posting and I was just trying to make notes, write down, and then eventually find the right time to send that tweet. A lot of it reached people because I found this right way of packaging the information and reducing it and making it offensive to some extent, that people had to take a position on it because it was too provocative or too edgy in some way for it to stand uncommented. So it's a really interesting sort of experience I can share with anyone who's wondering maybe how Twitter works. That to me felt the most I had ever been in a position where I understood how Twitter works. It's just like it's very intuitive, and I think someone like Trump, who's famous for shitposting, he's literally just shooting these things out of the hip, and the less your rational part of your brain actually tries to control what the other part does, the better the stuff is that comes out, because it's like unhinged, unfiltered. Somehow that works. I don't really know. I haven't fully figured it out, but it was a very sort of interesting and intense experience, because if you're not behind an anon name, you're very much exposing yourself also to some extent.
You're sharing some really raw
Yeah,
thoughts on your
yeah,
on an account that anyone could trace back to anything that you've
yeah.
ever done. I don't think you said anything that was out of line. I think you just pointed at some inconvenient
Yes.
truths that some people had to look
Yeah.
at. We're really good at fooling ourselves, and I'll just encapsulate every participant in this space that somehow we're doing things for the greater good of humanity, when honestly, if you boil it down, a lot of the time it feels like a lot of the participation in this space is really extractive, right?
Yeah.
Like, how can I pull a wool over your eyes so you will give me the money so I can get out of this position and I can beat you to the
Yeah.
next one? And that
Especially.
feels like it's everywhere. It's like,
It's really everywhere, and it's not how the space started. It's not at all how it started. The talk I gave at ETH Berlin was so. I think this whole shit posting and everything psychologically started when I was invited to give a talk at this 10-year Ethereum Berlin meetup jubilee. I was the fourth speaker, and it really triggered me to think about, well, what is my contribution on that evening? And somehow, the closer I got to giving this talk, I still didn't have a presentation, but I had thought about a million possible angles of how I could tell sort of my story and that of Ethereum and where it intertwined and maybe the interesting bits of that. I realized, okay, I'm giving a talk about me, but also about my class. And crypto, you can think of, in it about it a little bit like in classes. When did someone join, and what were they exposed to? What was the hook that got them in? If you joined roughly before the ICO craziness that really peaked in 2017 and then 2018 and then stopped, if you joined before that, you were in a very quirky space. It was very queer. I felt every second person was trans or unidentifiably gender wise, or, totally pink and crazy, or like just like people I did not meet when studying law in Germany, the most conservative thing you can possibly do. In the early days of crypto, there was very little ideological resentment by the OGs, people who created IT as we know it before crypto was a thing. They were curious about what we were doing and so on. If you fast forward to today, crypto feels like just vastly different. It's a vastly different vibe and what crypto sort of seems to be about. And I realized, okay, I'm going to give a talk about this class of 14, how I viewed it, what happened to me and what happened to others in this space, and sort of a divergence. where some have succeeded on every possible metric and made fortunes. Like we're talking in some cases billions, others, millions, hundreds of millions, tens of millions, like just generational wealth. Others are just sort of, still on the events or like still sort of, building something. They might not have been so successful. Others died. Like there is a significant number of dead people from the class of 2014 over the years, mysterious circumstances why they died. So there's a whole range of different outcomes. And I think I was trying to sort of synthesize that perspective into an appeal to those who made it really big in this sort of in my class to not fall into this very understandable trap of reproducing the same patterns of capitalist power structures that we have all been raised in. I felt that ultimately we all came here to change that piece. And we can only change it by bringing entirely new rails. That's exactly why we had to build Ethereum. But now that we have it and we have all that attention and power, we cannot just do the old thing in the new thing. But that is what I'm seeing. I'm seeing it all around. It's not even correct to say, oh, they're just maximizing return. They're also doing philanthropy. It's just that philanthropy is the worst crime against humanity after capitalism itself. It's just fuck your philanthropy. This is the fucking worst. So, I
I've never heard that before.
I'm in a sense asking like, these big wallets of the class of 2014 to take out whatever, if it would be me, I would take out 20 million, which I think is more than I can personally ever spend in my life. And there's enough to give to my kids and give the rest all away to all the people who are still here, who have the receipts to show that they're just here to build also something good. Let them do it. And they also give the money away. And it becomes this cycle. I'm not saying this is a protocol we can formalize. It's more like a spiritual hippie claim of sharing money. But to me, that is, although it might be insane, it's way closer to what I feel many people would like to experiment with than what's happening right now. And I feel right now we're going for a very narrow win, a very narrow definition of what crypto was ever about with the Larry Finks and the fintech and the revolution and the blah open banking finance shit. Great, I'm happy for everybody, but if we stop here, I think we've probably made the planet possibly even worse. I can't rule it out. Maybe not. I see reasons why maybe that step is already just what we had to do, and generations after us, people will continue the work. It's just how far we could go. I can live with either outcome. I'm deeply optimistic. I know in the end, everything's gonna go well. I would just love for this generation to have the ability to understand what's going on and sort of end this bullshit right here and do something relevant now.
If we don't make some type of pivot that is consistent with maybe outcomes that benefit the greater good, we run the risk of really like losing all of the gains that we've made and then maybe just the whole industry going sideways or down. And I'm not even talking price wise. I'm talking about, is this even beneficial for the people who are participating? I know lately I've been waking up and thinking, what the hell am I even doing? Like, is my life better because in 2019, I said, wow, I really appreciate the possibilities behind smart contracts to disrupt so many systems in our life. Fast forward to 2024, I continuously come to this mind space of like, God damn it. Like, why is everybody paying attention to this shitcoin trader who is literally offering nothing to humanity? But on the flip side, people with really authentic hearts, people who are really trying to do good things to make real change in this world, they are they get no attention. We have this incredible technology that we can leverage to make humanity stronger, more connected, right? Give opportunities where they don't exist in far-flung places on this globe. And yet, I've got to look at a Twitter account that has 250,000 followers, and all they do is tell me to buy some random shitcoin like Retardio or Fwog or God knows what. And then when they dump all over the people who follow them, they laugh about it and post pictures of their watches. It's like, what kind of cartoon am I live did I find myself in?
Mm,
Because it's not where I intended to
mm,
be, right? And now I think that's why I'm resonating with you so much. The authenticity behind your words is like, yes, yes, I agree.
mm,
Like, we need this pluralistic view of the world, more voices, diverse voices. We need to be working together for a better
mm.
outcome.
I got like dozens of people reaching out personally on Telegram and X and other messengers, just saying like, "Wow, I'm so grateful for some you here or someone speaking up, saying the uncomfortable thing." Some messages that I sent out accidentally destroyed DeSci, which is an entire field in crypto that I have no relationship with at all. But some messages actually triggered the D-side people, and then they sent me all these like anonymous messages with things that I just screenshotted and shared because people were afraid to say things publicly about what they believe the state of that industry is. Others reached out just saying, I was about to give up, or I have just recently been crushed in this very sort of toxic manner. I'm rethinking my entire life right now. I got so many personal messages from people sort of at the brink of leaving this industry or being entirely disillusioned or I don't know, something, being absolutely rotten to the core. I feel that I somehow ended up, yeah, becoming, at least for a moment, um, a resonator or a loudspeaker for what was a very palpable or is a very palpable shared emotional state among a lot of people and a lot of not rando people posting shitcoins on Twitter, but this sort of silent people who are doing a lot of quality work that is sort of carrying this space, like be it a long governance proposal that someone writes or managing a grants program somewhere or doing one of these million ungrateful, things that we have created in this industry that we at this point pay very badly or not at all for, that we do in an exploitative way for whatever reason, influence, be in chats with the right people, have even a chance of building something. Like we've deteriorated to the worst incentive structures known to mankind. And so it was crazy to see how many people reached out, like absolutely unexpected. I shared 10% of it on my own Twitter, and crazy, absolutely crazy.
Well,
Yeah.
so it's so interesting that you're in that position because like you didn't have to go off and become a founder, right? You said you're on this at the beginning, you're talking about this journey that you're on. You are a trained lawyer. You practiced law, right? You could have just kept following that pathway indefinitely in boardrooms and quiet offices, stayed out of the spotlight and enriched yourself. Like that was a possibility. That was a pathway. Instead, you find yourself building a coordination tool and common ground, and you're a founder of something that has possibility. Like, I mean, has an authentic heart and has the chance, right, to really be a beating heart of the app layer of Web3, right? And you believe in it. Your team believes in it. You've built a good product, and like you said, now it's black magic to get it adopted. And I think I'll walk off the black magic part, and I'll walk back from that line, and I will say the magic is in finding the users, the people who were looking for the better future
Hmm.
together, right?
Exactly.
And yes,
Yeah.
I think in common ground you take everybody, Florian, right? But like you've built the tool that
Mm,
can realize the vision, I think this overarching vision that you're talking
mm,
about.
mm,
How often are people talking about we need better DAO tooling? I wish I could vote on
mm,
this. How can I trust that one person, one vote over
mm.
there? To have that kind of integrated
Yeah.
experience in a place where people are coming together to meet in an ecosystem would be fantastic. And I think that there's a lot of opportunity there because the app layer is so barren at the moment, right? They don't, these things don't
Yeah.
exist, you know?
Indeed.
So
Amen.
totally cool.
Very good.
All right. Well, we've been going for way longer than
We
anticipated
did.
here,
We did.
Florian, and
It's my fault. I've been
I
rambling.
no, it's all good. I really appreciate you coming on, my friend, and I'm sure the listeners will as well.
Cool.